struggling with a bit of scarcity mindset. It's so limited. I feel the walls closing in. I know that I'm in here, but I can't shake it. I can't push out. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. It's dead right. I've never thought about that line. Welcome to Slice, Property Made Possible. We're a platform on a mission to reduce barriers to home ownership. This podcast is a safe space for our community to learn together and build the confidence required to start on their property journey. When you're ready to start, head along to slicetobuy.com and sign up for your free dashboard. Welcome back to another episode of Slice Your Property podcast. Today we are joined by Maaru from Vive Financials. Thanks for joining us.
You're very welcome, and thank you for having me.
So we'll start this off by asking you about your first home. What is it that you remember about that journey?
So funny you ask. I actually rent.
Hey.
I like building my business while having investment properties. That's my strategy.
Yeah. So rent vesting.
And that may change when we have kids, or if I have kids.
So when buying an investment property, what were the regulations at the time? Like, was it a 35% deposit or?
It was 35.
Yes. Yeah. So there is that challenge, I guess, with purchasing an investment property instead of a first home. But another way to do it is actually to purchase your first home, live in it for 6 months, and then rent it out. So there are opportunities that for those that do want to rent. And was that sort of around location and lifestyle that you made that decision?
Yeah, it is. And also it was around the time where I was made redundant from my job. And so we had a bit of cash, but also we went into business together. So it was about making a call, growing the business, renting, it just all worked out that way.
Yeah, amazing. Well, congratulations. I like that you took it a different direction as well. And do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do at, now I'm going to say it wrong again, I'm freaking out, Vive.
Vive. Yeah,
Vive.
Amazing. Yes, I am an insurance advisor at Vive, and I co-own Vive with my business partner, who is a mortgage advisor.
Awesome. And let's dive into a bit of that insurance chat as well, because it's such an interesting market at the moment. We're obviously seeing very high premiums. What is it that you're seeing in market, and how do you suggest that buyers think about their insurance? Not only when they're buying property, not only property insurance, but generally the topic of insurance as well might be interesting.
Premiums have increased. That's no secret. And of course, if you're working towards your first home, the more expenses you have, your serviceability gets impacted. But then there is also a balance between living with risks, taking on risks, and saving for the first time. So with premiums, though they have increased, I think the best strategy to have is really have some cover in place, the advice of an insurance advisor looking at various options. I think that's probably the best approach in this current market, is to have some cover so you're not living with too much risk while working towards the first time.
Yeah. And what sort of cover would that look like?
The two biggest assets you have as a working professional.
I think I know where you're going with this.
Or just as a person in general. Number one is your health. That's your biggest asset ever. And then if you're a working professional, then your ability to generate an income. They're the two biggest assets you've got that impacts your lifestyle. And your lifestyle is pretty important if you're working towards a significant goal like your first time.
If you're moving towards home ownership, what is the level of insurance that's required to kind of help you on that journey and make sure you can reach that goal?
Two covers you will look at, I would recommend you considering, is health insurance for sure, for unexpected health-related costs. The other one is income protection, depending on how much room you've got in your budget. But definitely health insurance, looking at how stretched our health system is at the moment. And it is expensive. It is probably the most expensive personal cover out of the whole lot. But the way I see it is, if you are able to get health insurance and your budget allows for it, you should consider it. So then we free up the system for those who can't afford to get health insurance.
I think that's a really good reminder that sort of insurance should be something that you're looking into in advance of purchasing property. I know that sometimes buying property can be a trigger for people to, a major life event. Buying property, having children can be a real kind of time to consider, actually. Do you have the systems in place to protect you? And that's where insurance often becomes a conversation. When it comes to purchasing property, what sort of tips do you have for buyers around insurance and looking at insurable homes?
So there's two branches of insurance. You've got your personal insurance and you've got your general insurance. General insurance, you have to have home insurance in order to get property. You have to have it. Personal insurance, at the end of the day, it's a purchasing decision you're making. And instead of opting for the most convenient option that's out there or the cheapest, you have to value engineer your option and make sure it's a balance of good quality and price. At the end of the day, it is something you've got to fit into your budget. Also be mindful that when you do buy your first home, you have to now get used to paying your mortgage payments. So you're going to have to find something that's going to work for you long term, not just what fits you now in the next 6 to 9 months at least.
What should a first home buyer be considering when going to buy property? So looking at a property and checking that it's going to meet the insurance requirements.
The number one thing you need to look for is, I hate to say, but a broker, not a DIY your cover. Do your research, find a broker that's got good reviews, good feedback from clients, and is client centric. So a broker that's going to look at your needs above their own, and they will be able to take you through options. So first, put it out on the table. This is my budget. This is what I can fit in. And then they will work with you to find the option that fits your needs, your specs around your home, as well as your personal covers.
Yeah. Nice. And then in terms of moving into the finance space away from insurance, I guess what I see amongst, my friends and also myself is there's all of these growing needs as you move along life's journey, basically, from travel to getting married to having kids. There's often these big life events that come with a massive cost. And I was keen to touch on that today and hear more about how you suggest people should be managing their finances to prepare for that. If you think travel can set you back 10 grand, a wedding 40, 50 grand, having children, don't know exactly what it is, might be 30 grand each a year or something like that. Like, they're significant costs. How do you manage and how do you suggest people manage?
The number one thing that affects all of those significant life events that people want to accomplish and fit in is their cash flow. So if you do a proper cash flow modeling, so anticipating how much household income you've got, how much expenses are going to go away, leave your bank account, and then therefore how much is left over to accommodate all these different things. And sometimes I have to remind clients that life is pretty long and you can have it all, but maybe not just
all at once.
All at once, yeah. And how can you determine that is through cash flow modeling, is to predict how much money you're going to have to accommodate.
Yeah. And so you've been working on a bit of a cash flow model that might be available. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
100%, for sure. So it's a new service we're rolling out to clients, existing clients, to get some feedback, but it'll be out open for everybody else. And it's essentially sitting down with clients, looking at their lifetime expected income coming in, expected expenses, anticipated expenses, and that factors in regular expenses as well as one-off expenses, holidays, kids,
Those big goals.
included. Yep, as well as how much your wealth is going to grow, any sale of property, upsizing home, all of those things. You put it into the model and create a picture, and the clients get to see real life graph.
Yeah. And therefore, when these sort of milestones can perhaps fit in, maybe you can't get married next year, maybe it's the year after, maybe you can't have 3 kids within 3 years, maybe you need to space that out. Because I just think it's nuts, like the cost of all of these, milestones. And of course, you don't have to get married, you don't have to have kids, you don't have to do them. But if you want to do them, it's a challenge, right? So I think there should be more support there. And it's great to hear that you guys have a tool that you're introducing to support with that.
100%. Last night, literally, we had a meeting with a couple who are thinking about having kids in maybe 3 to 4 years. So we just added in an imaginary baby called Baby A, and then added some, expenses per year. And it was awesome. It was really cool to see the changes in the cash flow curve.
Yeah.
And how they can come back. Because the female of that couple, she earns more.
Yeah.
And so when she goes on maternity leave, your cash flow is going to be impacted overall for the household.
Yeah.
These are amazing things that you can foresee and model.
And also how that can then impact your decision making. You can go, actually, oh, we're going to, if you take a whole year off, we're going to suffer quite a bit. Maybe you take 7 months and I take 3, or, you can actually start making empowered decisions because you have the data to support you with that. You must get a few couples coming through and planning for some of those big events. How do you sort of help them wrap their head around budgeting and for that sort of thing? Like, do you actually support them with managing their budget for that? Or
budgeting isn't a service we specialize in giving advice on. However, often when couples like that come to me for budgeting advice and wanting clarity on their budget, it is often tied to their money mentality.
yeah,
And so I would often ask them, do you want to work with someone who is going to work with your money mentality? There are experts in this area that I can connect you with.
yeah,
And I'll just stick to the area I specialize in, and I'll just think on to.
because it is a mindset sort of thing a lot of the time, right? Around actually making decisions and knowing how to budget and all of that. I think it's really interesting though to think about. I'm just like, yeah, I would love the opportunity if I get married to just have my wedding budget and then just hand it over to someone and be like, audit this, tell me if this is legit. Am I spending too much on flowers? Like, I love that concept to be like, someone needs to rein me in. I mean, we're pretty good with our finances, but it's so nice to have that objective support. And I think the cash flow thing tool is going to be massive and help a lot of people. But yeah, I think some people out there's probably a business to be like, budget for my wedding. Like, what do I do? Like, kind of like a personal trainer. You go to the gym for your wedding, probably like 6 months before, or however long it is to fit into that dress. Maybe you should have a financial PT on the lead up too.
I like that terminology.
Financial PT. Yeah, coin that. Start a new Instagram profile. Moving back into first home ownership, how does Vive help first home buyers? What does that process look like? And what do you see some of the challenges that first home buyers have?
Okay. So the challenges, the number one is cost of living. That's the big elephant. It's not really in the room anymore, but I'll just have to cost of living. But we just all have to kind of live with that. The process we will take first home buyers, there's a preliminary screening questions that we'll send through to determine which 2 buckets they will go into. The first bucket is if they qualify and there is a likelihood that they can obtain their first home loan, then we will put them through that.
Sounds like that's the bucket you want to be in.
But say they don't fall into that bucket, we have another bucket called road mapping. So I always tell people that if it's not a no, it's a delayed yes.
Yeah.
If you want it really badly, you will have it, but it's a delayed yes.
Yeah, it's just working towards it.
Yeah. So then we put together a roadmap, and then we will hold them accountable after that and give them a rough timeline.
Amazing. And it's great to have timelines when you've got goals as well, because it sort of makes it real and you've got a tangible date to work towards.
Yeah, 100%. So accountability and a roadmap, those are the blueprints for the stuff that we do, even with insurance and mortgages as well.
What are some tips for people that, I mean, first of all, I'll caveat this because a lot of people think that they're further away than they are. So I think you should always speak to an advisor or check out Slice and talk to us. We do free consults and we can let you know how, where you are in your journey. But if they're, really young and they one day want to own a home and they just want to focus on budgeting and getting, some basic kind of financial literacy, what sort of tips do you have for those people?
I would actually start with different branches of personal finances. The number one mistake I see a lot of people make is they'll say, I'm good with money. By that, most people mean I'm good at budgeting. But there are 4 other branches of personal finances. So to be financially literate, you have to be proficient in all the other areas of personal finances, because a financial plan is made up of all of these different things, not just budgeting. Budgeting is for the now and perhaps for the future, but there are so many other
elements. Yeah. Can you talk us through those other dimensions or give us a bit of a rundown?
So I call it the financial pyramid, and a triangle is such a strong shape because the foundation, the base, is the biggest part of it. So it's stable. So the base of it is your cash flow budget. You want to have a positive cash flow, all of that's obvious stuff.
Yeah, you definitely don't want it to be a negative.
And just above that is your risk management. So this is an area a lot of us overlook. purely because we don't like thinking about things going wrong, especially to do with our health or our loved ones being sick. And then the step above is wealth creation. This is the part we get attracted to. This is where all the magic happens, your property investment, your shares.
It's the sexy stuff.
It's the sexy stuff, and we want to be sexy.
Yeah, we do.
We do. And the next element is estate planning. And although that conversation should really start earlier on as well, but for the sake of progressive steps, I'm putting it in there. Estate planning is about looking at, how you're going to plan your retirement as well as your entire wealth portfolio and as well as tax planning. And then the last one is wealth distribution. So I always remember, I actually have it on my vision board, I came here with nothing and I leave here with nothing. It's the first thing I see. And it's a reminder that no matter what we build, at the end of it, we've got to leave it behind. So how do we want to leave it behind? So that's about distribution.
Yeah.
It's about the causes you want to support as well as your family legacy.
That's so cool because I don't think people just think about that budgeting and they don't think about the other two arms. And so it sort of makes sense because moving through your life, you start at the bottom of the triangle and you make your way to the top. But obviously you want to get you kind of want to get to the top sooner rather than later. Talking about money mindset, so that's not necessarily something that you're helping with. You've got sort of frameworks that you stick within. But what would you describe your money mindset as? And what have been some tools or books that have supported you on your wealth journey?
My money mindset has evolved quite substantially. I'm naturally a very risk-averse person. So to go into business was one of the most scariest things I have ever done. And that too, I went into business with, at the time, I'm also married to Jeff, who's my business partner.
Yeah.
So at the time we were married, going into business, completely losing sight of security and stability. That was one of the scariest things. So the money mindset at the time was all around perfectly planned out financial future.
Triangle.
Yeah. To now, things have evolved to the point I have those fears, but I do it anyway.
Yeah.
So my money mindset currently is I have those fears, but I do things anyway despite those fears. And resources that have helped is one is Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yeah.
Very
Classic.
Controversial one, but Think and Grow Rich, parts of it. I know it was written a very long time ago, but there are some
of these elements still stand though. Yeah.
Yeah. Think and Grow Rich and the Barefoot.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think it's really interesting because we all sort of start off with a money mindset, and a lot of it can be from our family and our experiences as well, nature and nurture, I suppose. But it does need to it's healthy to develop, but it also does naturally develop over time. Do you feel like when you were moving into business, you had like a scarcity mentality a little bit as opposed to abundance? Because I've struggled with that myself.
It's a very fear-oriented mentality. So the scarcity mindset comes from fear. Fear of the unknown. Whereas you say, okay, I'm scared of this, but I will do it anyway because now I'm focusing on what I'm going to get back in return or taking that risk.
Yeah, I feel like there might be 3 levels, and perhaps we're both at level 2 instead of 3. But one being that, yeah, you have the fear and you don't move, you don't take chances, you don't take opportunity. Then you sort of move into curiosity a little bit, I think, before you move into now I'm making those decisions, even though I still feel uncomfortable. And then 3 is moving more into abundance, I would say. And I think I'm moving between 2 to 3. But yes, steps 1 to 2 is probably the hardest. And then 2 to 3 kind of just is an extension of being at 2. I think like the more that you are afraid of it, you have that fear, you have that scarcity, but you do it anyway, you keep showing up, and then hopefully you start to see some of the fruits of your labor come through, and then that builds confidence and you find your way into a more abundance. Actually, there is growth, there is opportunities, there is, a need for what I'm doing or how I'm showing up.
100%. There's one particular incident when I first went into business with Vive. We were living out of a converted garage. It was a conscious decision we made. We downsized, and one of our friends had a converted garage bedroom. We lived there for a whole year. Anyway.
No, it's great. You make these sacrifices to go where you want to go.
Yeah, and this one particular incident, we were really desperate. I say this because we weren't really desperate, but at the time I thought we were
felt desperate. Yeah.
to have clients. So I was calling up all my contact family friends, and I managed to get a few appointments. And that one day I had about 3 or 4 people, and all of them said, hey, something's come up. Can we just reschedule? So it's not like they said, we don't want to do it. They just said, can we talk another time? But at the time I was coming from such a scarcity mindset.
You take it personally, and it's like it's me, I'm the problem. Or,
Yeah. And I thought, oh my God. And I actually cried because I'm like, oh my God, this is not working.
this isn't gonna work. Like, it was never gonna work. What were we thinking?
Yeah. And I'm thinking, I don't have any appointment today. I was supposed to have 3 or 4, and all of them postponed, or I thought cancelled on me, but they didn't. They saw me the next week.
Yeah.
They didn't.
You were just having a real bad day.
Real bad day. And that was a wake up moment for me. That's when that mentality started shifting.
I'm like I'm on the level. I'm like, yeah, no, I was nuts last week. I even think a month ago I was struggling with a bit of scarcity mindset, and I knew I was, though. Like, I was going to my therapist, and I was like, I am in this scarcity mindset. It's so limited. I feel the walls closing in. I know that I'm in here, but I can't shake it. I can't push out. And what's so frustrating is, like, when you know you're there, but you can't do anything. It's like the problem's in your own mind. There's nothing more frustrating. Hi, I'm the problem, it's me. It's dead right. I've never thought about that line so much before in my life. That's so true. Be self-affirming, have a bit of faith that things will come right, and then they did. And then, they did, and they did, and they did. But it's just like sometimes your efforts are delayed, and sometimes things don't always work out, of course. So I feel reassured knowing you felt the same way. Yeah, I think abundance is, you'd like to live there all the time, but realistically, life does come with its ups and downs. What are some tips on that note, other than recognizing that we're the problem, that you would have for people trying to move into abundance, I guess, or trying to shift into a new goal or a new...
So this is something recently I started saying to myself. It's that I am a student of business and life in general. No matter where I am, there is always stuff to be learned. There's always the next level. There's always other people I can learn from. So when you put yourself as a student of something, then you remove all these expectations and your focus goes on learning.
And you remove the ego as well, I think.
100%. Yeah. Then you don't come from a place of, I know everything, or I should know everything. And even with insurance, which is bread and butter for me, I like to think I'm very good at it.
Yeah.
Even with that, when I don't know something, the moment I tell myself I'm a student of insurance and I don't know something, when a client asks, I'll tell them, I will find that out for you.
I love that as a concept and as insight for other people, that actually see yourself as a learner, not as the person that knows everything. I mean, there's so many reasons why you can benefit from that. But in particular, not just because other people will probably prefer you, because I don't think anyone likes someone that, has a massive ego and presumes to know everything, but also because you're going to make it easier on yourself. I think I struggle with high expectations for myself and not meeting them across all spectrums of my life, or all kind of pillars. And I never will, because I think it's much like financial well-being. It's like you can't have everything all at once. How have you found that? I'm taking this on a real tangent, but I'm enjoying it with you. How have you found that moving into a business and making some big life decisions like that? How have you found that impact? I know you've got a triangle of finances. Do you have, I have buckets. I have bucket theory. I've never talked about this on the podcast before, but much like your 2 buckets, except there's like 5 or 6. Let's see if I can remember them. But family is one, friends is one, health is one, business or career is another, and then I think I have more like arts as the other one, or like hobbies. So there's 5 buckets and you can't fill them all at once. Right now I'm confident that I'm not filling them all at once.
I had to reach a very low point last year with my health to realize that these different buckets. I completely agree with you that these buckets actually exist. Until then I just thought work.
Yeah.
And then my self-worth, my self-value, how I value myself, everything came down to how I perform at work. And when things don't work out at work, even beyond your own control, when things don't work out, then you will really beat yourself up, even though they're beyond your control. But the moment you focus on all these different buckets, it helps. So for me, focusing on health, relationships, so outside digital relationships, actually making a conscious effort to call people that are important to me.
Because it doesn't have to be going to see someone in person. Like, that might not be practical.
Yeah. And I'm still not that good at that whole calling people that matter to me because I get so into the work and then I look at my phone, I'm like, I really should call in.
I'm pretty sure I have no friends anymore. So you're in good company.
The creative side, bang on. I think everybody should have some kind of a creative bucket. And you don't have to be a pro, you don't have to be a Picasso. So focusing on all these dimensions to who you are and then translating into these buckets is key. So if you've got 5 buckets or 6 buckets, make sure you fill at least 2 to 3 a day.
Yeah.
And it could be a combination.
And try and diversify what you're filling rather than just focus on the career bucket. To circle back to our home ownership kind of focus, what are you seeing in market at the moment that you think buyers should be thinking about?
At the moment, buyers, generally speaking, I think the number one thing is being in touch with reality. And by that, I mean the biggest struggle that I see buyers, especially first-time owners, come across is not being familiar with their numbers. And that translates into the idea of a first home. A lot of them will tell me that they want to build wealth through property and they're working towards their first home. And then but then they would have rigid expectations of their first home. So I would always remind them, your first home is not your dream home.
Thank you so much for joining us, Maaru.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining our community. Buying property isn't easy, but listening in will get you one step closer on your journey. Please leave an Apple or Spotify review and provide feedback so we can improve your experience. Join our Facebook group, A Safe Space to Learn Together, or follow us on Instagram at @slice2buy. If you have any questions or topics you would like us to touch on, you can email us at hello@slice2buy.com. A quick reminder, Slice the podcast does not provide personalised investment advice. We are not acting as financial advisors or taking into account your circumstances. To get personalised advice, join us at slice2buy.com and engage with our partners who can act as your financial advisor or lawyer and support you with your specific needs.